Julian Assange's got political asylum in Ecuador, but now, no way of getting there. Britain's gone out of its way to make abundantly clear it would take drastic action to prevent the whistleblower from taking that asylum. From an outright denial of safe passage, all the way to threats to raid the Ecuadorian Embassy and take him by force. RT's Laura Smith, who was at the embassy on a day of drama, reports.
It was the day they'd all been waiting for. Julian Assange holed up in London's Ecuadorian Embassy for 2 months, and his supporters, who turned out to cheer for him, rain or shine, since his legal battle against extradition to Sweden first began more than 18 months ago. Also there in large numbers, the police, who didn't wait long to make their first arrests. When the decision came, it was the one they wanted.
We've decided to grant asylum to Julian Assange.
Assange called it a significant victory, and his mother was fulsome.
Ecuador's example will be a shining light to the rest of the world and maybe encourage other governments to do the same.
But not everyone was pleased. The UK Foreign and Commonwealth Office called the decision disappointing, and Foreign Secretary William Hague said it changed nothing.
It does not change the fundamentals of the case. We will not allow Mr Assange safe passage out of the United Kingdom, nor is there any legal basis for us to do so.
Hague also denied any suggestion that British police would storm the embassy, sovereign territory under international law, to arrest Assange. But that's not what Ecuador inferred from a letter it says was delivered through the British embassy in Quito. In response, Ecuador played hardball.
No national law could be used in this way, in any intrusive way, in any diplomatic facilities, any place in the world. It shouldn't be used to threaten or blackmail the sovereignty of any other country. And they called a summit to try to deal with this threat, so that this fact doesn't go unpunished.
The scary part, the part that I find completely incredible and outrageous, is the British threats to actually go in and try and extract Julian Assange. But I must say, to see British troops surrounding, or British police surrounding that embassy, was an act of intimidation that should not be allowed and is not allowed under asylum law.
Stuck in the middle, Julian Assange, who has a new home but no way of getting there.
So apart from putting him in a big trunk and labelling him as diplomatic bag, I'm not quite sure whether that would work, but otherwise we might see him holed up there for the next couple of years, who knows, until they reach a solution to this impasse.
If he leaves the embassy, he's liable to arrest by the UK, which insists it must still extradite him to Sweden, a position Ecuador won't accept.
Ecuador would respond to the United Kingdom. Would that mean possibly breaking relations on a regional level? That could happen.
The granting of asylum by Ecuador to Julian Assange hasn't spelled the end of this tale, already full of twists and turns. In fact, it appears to be the beginning of something else, with neither the UK nor Ecuador apparently willing to back down. It's developing into an ugly diplomatic spat, which could affect relations for some time. Laura Smith, RT, outside the Ecuadorian Embassy in London.
Well, Britain's threat to raid the Ecuadorian embassy met a wave of criticism, and the UK itself is beefing up security at a number of its embassies abroad, targeted by protesters. In Australia, a group of demonstrators have occupied a British consulate, and Greg Barnes, spokesman for the Australian Lawyers Alliance, says they're right to be angry.
Let's forget about the whole policy of diplomatic immunity. Let's forget about the whole policy of asylum. Let's have a free-for-all, because that's what the British would be doing. I've had a look at the legislation that the British government is relying on. It was brought in 1987 to stop, I think, the Libyans and other nations who were, it was said, fostering terrorism within their embassies. This is not a matter of national security. I think a court in the UK would find that William Hague, who's the minister responsible, had acted outside of his powers. Furthermore, it sets an appalling precedent. How could Britain, which says that it's the mother of the rule of law and doing things the right way in the world, criticise any other government around the world if they took the same step? This would be a disgraceful action, and it would effectively be saying that when it comes to the United States, Britain, like Australia, will do whatever it takes to deliver.
Ecuador says the key factor in its decision to offer refuge to Julian Assange was that he may not get a fair trial if he ended up in the U.S. And packing the whistleblower off to America, say his supporters, is the ultimate objective of authorities in both Britain and Sweden. RT's Marina Portnaya reports now on what could be in it for Washington.
While Julian Assange's mother is calling this a victory for her son, many see this as a small defeat for the U.S., and that is because many believe the U.S. Was hoping that Julian Assange would be extradited to Sweden, so then Sweden would subsequently be able to extradite Julian Assange to the United States. We have heard in recent years, it's no secret, former and current U.S. government officials equating Julian Assange to a terrorist, and that was in the aftermath of him releasing cables and memos that were classified that belonged to the U.S. government. As a result, the integrity of the U.S. government was compromised. A lot of secrets were revealed, and it painted the U.S. Foreign policy in a dark light. It's no secret that the administration of U.S. President Barack Obama has been earning a reputation for waging a war on whistleblowers, a fiercer reputation than any of his predecessors. Many journalists, scholars, and activists in the U.S. have signed a letter of support for Julian Assange. One is including Naomi Wolf. She's a journalist and author.
First of all, this is a White House, now two White Houses, Obama's and Bush's, which is systematically overclassifying everything, especially wrongdoing, especially anything related to what whistleblowers want to release, especially, torture that they've engaged in, methods of torture. It's like mafia tactics. I can't believe it's come to this. The government is saying to journalists everywhere in America, we're going to intimidate you, and we're going to threaten you, and we're threatening you with serious legal penalties like prison time if you do your job.
When I was speaking with Naomi Wolf, what she wanted to clarify for me in her position is that she sees Julian Assange, and many do, as the publisher, similar to the New York Times. Julian Assange is the publisher, the one that made the information available. He is not the leaker. She noted, why isn't the U.S. government going after the New York Times for publishing what WikiLeaks published? Instead, the U.S. government, it is presumed, is ultimately hoping to go after Julian Assange. Either way, she said that this would be a dark day for all journalists in the U.S. if he would be in the custody of America, prosecuted, held indefinitely, or possibly even face capital punishment.
And if you'd like to hear more of Naomi Wolf's thoughts on Julian Assange's predicament or the increasingly belligerent role of governments, we'll be showing her a full interview here on RT, and that's coming up at 10:30 a.m. GMT. Well, Anti-Leaks, a rogue U.S. hacker group, claims to have launched an illegal DDoS attack on the RT website. More on the ongoing attack now with RT's Tom Barton.
RT's website is now partially back online after the DDoS attack. The attack started some hours ago now with the group Anti-Leaks claiming responsibility for it. They've hashtagged on their Twitter posts that Assange and WikiLeaks were originally the reasons for their attack. It seems that they're trying to stop RT's coverage of the granting of asylum by Ecuador's embassy, RT's coverage of all the drama surrounding that story. A DDoS attack, a distributed denial of service attack, is where a group of hackers get a large number of computers to flood a website with traffic, crippling the servers and meaning that no one else who wants to access it can do that. They have previously launched a similar attack on WikiLeaks' own website. As the name suggests, Anti-Leaks sets itself up in opposition to WikiLeaks, and as they have admitted, primarily in opposition personally to Julian Assange. There is much speculation as to who precisely this group are, whether they are a group of teenagers, perhaps based in the US or some other part of the world, perhaps even a US government agency. However, this attack has gone on for some hours now, and we're trying to resolve the problems with our website at the moment so that everyone can continue watching our coverage of the Assange story.
All right, Tom, thanks very much indeed for this update.